Alright, we all knew this is coming. The Phase 2 25 to 40 Rogue Leveling Guide. I'm going to start off by saying if you're level 1, just follow my 1 to 25 guide, but at around level 20, you can start to take the advice of this video. It's going to include, but is not limited to, weapon progression, skill progression, rotation, talents, runes, and more. Remember to subscribe, of course. Still almost nobody pushes the button, and let's get into it. First of all, if you don't know why everybody's crazy about Mutilate, it's because with the Phase 2 patch, it now costs 40 energy instead of 60. You're probably asking, well, yeah, that's better, but is it really all that much better than Saber Slash? And the answer is yeah, it's a lot better. Simon Sim projections estimate Mutilate builds to outperform Saber Slash builds by about 16% damage, and that includes while leveling. The ability itself is now just kind of overtuned, and the SoD devs just seem to like it that way, forcing the meta to mix it up a little bit. Mutilate also uses the slice and dice animation, so it looks kind of wonky. When I asked Agron on Twitter if it was getting updated, he said not in Phase 2, but it's on their radar. The only real reason not to be Mutilate is that it's most effective with 2 slow daggers, which are pretty hard to come by, especially when leveling. If you mained a rogue in Phase 1 and you have 2 chipped bite of Syracuse, you will use them all the way to 40. If you don't, you can do a BFD run for XP and hope that one drops, and get the Scouts/Sentinel blade from your Warsong Reputation vendor if you're already revered. You can always just continue to level at Saber Slash and then switch as soon as you get your hands on some daggers. Compiled a list of noteworthy ones here, starting with BOEs that you can find on the auction house. They're all 1.5 speed or slower, so just pause the video if you want to look into them more. Here are some you could also find on the auction house, but also on vendors out in the world if you don't see them on the auction house. Here are some you can get as a quest reward with the lowest level you can do the quest, but you might need help or to be a certain faction. You can also get a Meteor Shard requiring level 24 from SFK, Torturing Poker level 29 from SM Graveyard, and a Swine Tusked Shank level 30 from RFK. This video is going to be a little different and not go level by level because it's much more weapon specific rather than level specific. You could easily get to level 40 without training any new abilities and not really miss out on any damage because we're just using rune abilities the whole time. Those don't require better ranks. There are some things that might be useful, so I'll note them here and show the skill field guide. Cheap Shot at 26, Sap rank 2 at 28, New Garrote at 30 and 38, and Sprint rank 2 at 34 along with Blind. With good weapons, Mutilate could easily outdamage Eviscerate, but you do get a new rank at 32. Although Mutilate generates combo points extremely quickly, they can easily go to waste. Ideally, you stack to 4 combo points with 2 Mutilates and then do an Envenom, but it's highly unlikely you will be at 4 or 5 deadly poison stacks on the target with just those attacks alone. It means the Envenom cast will do very little damage. While you do still get the buff to increase your chance to apply poisons, after 2 Mutilates the target often won't survive the duration of it. This means that you need to be roughly aware of how much damage your Mutilate is doing, and if you can outright kill your target with another one, you should. Even if you're at maximum combo points and gonna waste them, the Mutilate is so insanely good the finishers don't really keep up a lot of the time and cost very similar energy. Speaking of finishers, we do get Kidney Shot at level 30, and while you can use Between the Eyes instead, which does the same stun but with damage, its chance to hit is calculated by your ranged weapon skill, and it's unlikely that you're gonna keep this up while leveling, so Kidney Shot's still useful for a reliable stun, especially if you're using Envenom on your pants. Because of this, the runes I started out with were Mutilate, Envenom, and Deadly Brew. Envenom mostly in case if I was fighting a really beefy target and just got lucky and stacked up the Deadly Poison quickly on it, I could burst it down with the Envenom finisher nature damage, then try to rush into the next mob to make use of the Envenom buff. You can run the tank runes, Blade Flurry, and just a Flesh Wound if you want, but keeping these on all the time is going to significantly slow down your leveling. You don't want to waste energy on Blade Dance instead of Mutilate. They're great to swap on if you need to kill something difficult like an elite, but make sure that you have some poison debuffs on the target whenever you take Deadly Brew off your chest. That way you don't miss out on the 20% bonus damage on your Mutilate. The talents are going to require a lot of explanation. The 2 points in Remorseless Attacks and Assassination are extremely powerful, and you will almost always want them. As we have mobs dotted up with Deadly Poison, Imp Gouge isn't that amazing. You can still take it if you want for off targets, though Imp Sinister isn't necessary. Make sure that you have 3 out of 3 and improved backstab at all times, and Riposte is still a great ability, but it has its downsides. We're using daggers, and the damage has no dagger scaling. The combo points don't really give us any value, and it basically costs half of a Mutilate in energy. Also, if you have great daggers and you're killing things really quick, the Disarm doesn't really have any value. It is still absolutely worth casting, and you can macro it into your abilities if you want, but it's really just the 6 talent points that it costs to get it that makes it so clunky, so I'll go over some options if you want it or when you want it. Start out at 25 with Riposte and Remorseless and very few points in Precision, and fill those out on your way to 30. Or skip Riposte and just start out with the hit rating, which is going to get you dual wield spec sooner. Level 30, the conventional advice is to respec out of Remorseless and then rush down to Blade Flurry, as killing 2 mobs at once every 2 minutes is extremely good, but if you are bursting down mobs with great weapons, losing Remorseless for even just 2 levels can really hurt you. You can decide this when you train your 30 skills and start the Shadowstep quest, which I'll go over later. Once you're level 30 with Blade Flurry, you have 3 options to go from here. If you're running Riposte, fill up dual wield spec as soon as possible. Dual wield spec is absolutely insane with Mutilate. You will immediately notice your Mutilates hit much harder. This is another downside of Riposte. It delays your dual wield spec because you need to fill out Precision first before getting it. If you skip Riposte but still want it eventually, you'll use those 4 points to go from 2 out of 5 deflection and get Riposte at level 36. Or if you skip Riposte and never want it, those 2 early points go into Endurance, and you can put 4 points into Dagger spec for some extra crit. So we're on the second to last row of combat, grab 2 out of 2 weapon expertise, and then forget the rest of the combat tree. You're gonna respec at 40 anyway, so working towards adrenaline rush isn't worth it. Go into subtlety and dump whatever remaining points you have into opportunity. If you don't want to think that hard and just want to copy and paste a recommendation, pause the video and do this. You can also do the same rune setups with Saber Slash, and a similar talent build which is just standard vanilla combat leveling rogue. In this build, dual wield spec is not as critical because your ability is only hitting with your main hand, and fights should be longer so riposte should get more value. Now I'm going to talk about your boot and belt runes. You get Shadowstep from a quest at level 30, which is another dungeon adventure from C. You just go to the SFK house again, go to Scarlet Monastery, loot this disguise from the box in the barn outside, pickpocket a key from a caster mob in SM Graveyard, put on the disguise and then run through library and loot a box. Then you go back into Graveyard, stealth to the middle bench on both sides and slash sit on them, then go to the middle crypt thing on the right and loot another box, and go back into library with the disguise again and then loot another box. You go back to the SFK house, go to a major city, and then go back to the SFK house again. This is very easy, and Shadowstep is considered kind of the default belt rune. However, it is extremely clunky because it triggers the global cooldown. It can be full energy and Shadowstep to something and just auto attack it and waste a full energy tick. It is still really good though, and you want to make use of the 70% move speed bonus to travel around faster. A really solid boot option is Master of Subtlety, which you can get from the Curzon camp in STV. Look up a guide for this, however it does require 125 lockpicking, and this place is swarming with Alliance, so if you're Horde it's a little tricky to do. If you do get this rune, it's not worth doing a full stealth opener just for the 10% damage. However, you can stealth while you're in Shadowstep range, and then Shadowstep, and then open every 30 seconds. We consider those the standard setup, but some alternatives are getting Rolling with the Punches from Thousand Needles. Bonus health from this rune works like Last Stand. You lose current health when the buff goes away, but a higher health pool is pretty nice for leveling. If you're Horde and you don't have 125 lockpicking, I would just grab this when you're in 1k needles anyway. Also gain some value for undead rogues because Cannibalize heals off of your max health, so if this rune increases your max health, the Cannibalize will heal for more. Poison Knife is a fantastic option, which you get from a quest from this campfire in Desolus if you are above level 30. And you go to Booty Bay and buy a drink for an orc, then you go below the Thandal Span Bridge in Arathi and click on this boat to go to the side of the zone where you must fight a level 40 Night Elf. People are doing this all the time, so you could do the whole thing at level 30 and just hope somebody helps you kill it. And if you're a Night Elf rogue, you actually get a dialogue option to where you don't actually have to fight her. You can just ask her for the key and she'll give it to you, so you can do this rune at level 30 with lots of traveling but no actual combat if you are a Night Elf. Then loot the rune from a box on the north side of the dock. Be extremely cautious of PvP in this area because there's no graveyard, so dying is pretty much an immediate 10-minute break from the game. If you do run Poison Knife on your belt, make sure that you have 2 points in Imp Sinister Strike to reduce the energy cost. It is great for pulling mobs and puts up a poison right away for that bonus Mutilate damage. It's more unpopular, but in my opinion it feels better and it's less awkward than Shadowstep. Shuriken Toss you get from Swamp of Sorrows, but it's pretty trash for leveling, and with good weapons Mutilate can easily outdamage it even in AoE situations. Waylay is unlocked from the Dark Rider, so I don't think it's feasible for me to even suggest getting it or using it. I don't really think it's a game changer for leveling anyway. You could also run a classic favorite Hemo PvP build after level 30. Despite what a lot of the classic community thinks, Hemorrhage has literally 0 dagger scaling in vanilla. They added it in Wrath, so you want to use slow weapons. The questing add-on that I use is called Rested XP. You can get it at restedxp.com, and if you buy it, you can use code KIPZO, KIPPZO, for a discount. Also, all my add-ons and weak auras are in the Discord below. Try to kill literally everything that you're next to. Travel is usually the most inefficient part of questing, and you can easily burn something down while you're dragging it just moving somewhere. The journey to 40 is very smooth, but like I said, very weapon dependent. Nothing really changes kind of the entire time besides the acquisition of weapon upgrades, getting Blade Flurry, and getting dual wield spec. And while the belt and boot runes are kind of cool, none of them are so critical that you need to stop everything and get them right away. Overall, this was an absolute blast. I haven't had this much fun leveling a rogue since the old face stabbing days back on private servers, but this was even better. Though I wish Mutilate had a better animation, you actually don't see it a lot of the time because you cancel it with a poison proc animation. And while the new runes aren't really that exciting, how completely overpowered 40 energy Mutilate more than makes up for it. Thanks for watching the whole video, guys. Subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to learn more about rogue, I have a big rogue school playlist right here.